Hey guys, so it's currently day one of the new meta, and we've already seen a bunch of decks succeed within the metagame. So in today's video, we're going to go through a bunch of the decks that have gotten a pretty large win streak within the ladder, and I'm going to explain kind of the main changes and how they kind of operate. So let's get right into it. So if you haven't seen this particular website already, it is shadowversemaster.com, so it's actually our website, as you may have gathered by the name. So let's start from the bottom. I will work our way up. So, all right, let's start with Spellboost Rune. So Parachan, he's a very, very prominent Runecraft streamer, and he's put together the first high win streak Spellboost Rune deck. So you'll see that the main changes are they've added the Earthrise package from the new set. So they've added Piscale's Dance. So although it has a crest effect where you gain like double attack and defense, I'm pretty sure this almost never gets used. It is primarily just for the fact that you can gain an Earth Sigil while drawing a card. And you'll see later that he's included a bunch of cards that do actually consume the sigils. So of course, we already had Sage Light, so this one was mostly to gain 4 HP, but on occasion you can also consume it to do 4 AoE damage. And then on top of that, he also runs Virgin. So this is just a generic Spellboost card. You only want to play one, which is why he includes one. But effectively, it's a great tempo evo. The onion patches 1/1 rushes, and when they attack, you Spellboost the cards in your hand, right? So also, with the crest, you get one at the start of turn every single turn. So essentially, you gain one free spell boost every turn after you've evolved this. So it's quite strong on curve, and it's unsurprising that he runs it. It's basically like your fourth copy of Anon Grail, but just with a different function. So apart from that, he also runs 2 copies of the new legendary, so Norman, Adamant Alchemist. So this one, it has a bunch of different effects, and so you just want to use the one that makes the most sense. But the biggest kind of the most ridiculous part about this card, right, is the fact that now you can't really get aggro down anymore, right? Like, you play this and you activate the Earthrise to restore 4 health to leader, and then you evolve and you do the same thing again, right? And then all of a sudden you've healed for 8. And that's kind of ridiculous. Like, you know, the early game is where you usually take a bunch of damage to your leader's life, but then once you stabilize and you play this card and you evolve it and you heal for 8, like, there's not many decks that can still kill you through that, so it's kind of crazy. And then finally, I think he doesn't run the new 3 play point spell boost, deal 1 more damage to the AoE board, so that's an interesting one. But I think first of all it's to do with space, and second of all, we already do have a huge amount of stabilization with Norman, so yeah, he got 19 win streak with this, and everything else is about the same. So the deck will operate similarly to the hybrid package you saw last expansion. It's just a little bit more consistent now and less susceptible to aggro. Okay, next up we have Puppet Portal. So Puppet Portal got a lot of new cards. So this is a build that runs Windblade Goblin. So I think I did mention that I felt this wasn't relegated to only aggro decks because the fanfare effect is actually pretty good. Like, if there's super evolved ally fall on the field, you select an enemy fall on the field and deal 4 damage. That's really not hard to achieve, to be honest. And you can also just play this in turn 1, and if they don't answer, you just poke them for 1 damage every turn. And this is very good with like the puppet engine, right? Because if they trade into this with a 2/2, your puppet will finish it off. So if it's in the curve, it can be played late game with like an extra effect. So it's good in puppets for that reason. And then on top of that, it runs, of course, the new legendary. So Odin. Odin makes sense in puppets, to be honest. They've actually cut the 10 cost so that they can run this instead. So basically just banish anything, you swing for 4. And then this works especially well in puppets because, like, your opponent's not going to have much of a board because you're controlling with their puppets every turn. And even if they do have some weenies left on the board, you can just use your 0 play point puppets to clear it. And then you play this in their big dude, you swing, maybe even super evo, 7 damage or 6 damage with normal evo. And then, of course, you follow up with Orcus and you do 7, 8, 9, whatever, however much damage you want to do. And so if you open with the right curve, it's kind of unstoppable from like this perspective. Like, this is face damage that starts from turn 7 and doesn't stop until they're dead. So this already makes a lot of sense. And then on top of that, they're running this way symbolic card. So the new legendary from the set. So this one, you summon Victoria. It's a 6/1 puppet follower, but when it attacks, it does 6 damage to the enemy follower first. And then potentially it doesn't die as a result of that. And then all puppet followers come in with ward. So protects Sway, protects your other followers. So this card for 5 play points is really strong. Like, usually on 5 play points, you'd be forced to use an evolve point to clear. But you're getting a 6/1 rush for free, and it's going to live, and they have to trade into it. Like, there's a lot of decks that don't have a very efficient way of killing a 6/1. Even though it's only 1 HP, they might have to kill it by combat, right? And if you clear their entire board before that, some matchups have a really hard time dealing with this. So overall, this class, oh, I know it's only one copy of this, but this one's just like, you know, you can evolve it for 5 for free, or you can manually evolve it, and when it dies, deals 4 damage randomly follow. It's kind of underwhelming, to be honest, but it's okay. There's no issues with it. It's just generic 2 play point card. But yeah, that's pretty much like the current deck list for Puppet Portal that we've been seeing on the ladder. So yeah, I mean, it's more aggressive. It's got more options with Odin and the Twin Blade Goblin. Like, you know, your curve from 1 to 7 makes a lot more sense now. Definitely like one of the stronger kind of aggro mid-range decks. It should beat most of the other aggro mid-range because of the fact that you're going to be able to stick a board and they're not going to be able to stick a board. So worth considering. Next up, we've got Artifact Portals. So I think there's a bunch of Artifact Portal lists. I don't think they've been doing quite as well as the other archetypes, despite the fact that I think Artifact Portal is probably tier 1 again. So I did underestimate a few cards when I looked at it earlier. So Flight of Icarus is quite strong, actually. Like, it's effectively, because you're copying so many 5-cost artifacts now, and this actually attaches to the 5-cost artifacts. So, and it gives a Russian last word. So if they were going to die anyway from like Doomright Resonance, like, who cares, right? And then also, you know, it's a lot easier for them to clear your board. They never run out of cards in hand. They never ran out of cards in hand anyway, but even less likely to run out of cards in hand. It is a brick early game, but I think the upside does sort of make up for it. I still don't know if it's 3 of, but it seems to work for this guy. So before I actually get into the individual cards, I guess like the new kind of theme of of Artifact Portal in this particular expansion is like, before you were just copying 5 costs and they were just like their base vanilla effects, right? But now you can kind of like upgrade them within your hand. So of course, Flight of Icarus is one of them. Another one is Carnelia. So when you evolve this card, you can select an artifact following your hand and give it one and can't be destroyed by abilities. And I believe that this also applies to Doomright Resonance, so it doesn't pop at end of turn anymore. So essentially, you can like upgrade your artifacts with these types of effects. So when you copy them onto the field, they also keep those effects. Which means like even cards like this Artifact Catapult, right? It doesn't seem very good because your artifact will die at end of turn. But if you've upgraded the artifact, then you know you're getting more value than what a 5 play point usually would be, right? So that's the reason why some people play this. Plus, you can sort of spread it out. Like if you have a weak early game and you just play this on turn 2, you're sort of banking the play points. So if anyone ever has like a weak turn, like if your opponent just passes on one of the turns, you can just set this up and then pay 3 later to get the copy of the artifact, right? So yeah, I think these additions, like these new cards, are actually pretty good. But of course, the main new card is Karula, right? So Karula, he's like a conditionless copy, an artifact that costs 5 or less in your hand. You don't need to evolve it like Alouette. And it's got good stats, but also when you super evolve, it can attack 2 times per turn. So effectively, you can go Karula, attack twice, deal 2 face damage, kill 2 followers, and then you get the artifact that does 3 damage to enemy face, right? And then that's 5 damage, plus your opponent has to deal with 7, no, it's 8, 7, and they have to deal with like your 4/4 artifact as well. So this card on curve is quite difficult to beat. Of course, the most boards do just die to the opponent's Super Evo, but you've already done 5 damage to their face. So yeah, this card's pretty good as well. And then of course, they're just running 3 Orcus and 3 Realmia for the top end. So I think with a new build, you don't even necessarily need to go into the Gundam, but the Gundam is like way easier to close the game. Like if you do have access to it, they're taking so much more burn damage and pressure in the mid game that they're probably not going to be above 10 HP when you get to turn 10. So yeah, I think Artifact got a pretty big buff this expansion. Next up, we have Wardhaven. So Wardhaven, okay, so Wardhaven's reliant on the new legendary, right? So almost all of your cards have Ward. And then on top of that, when you play Wilbur and you evolve it against a crest, right? And the crest is every follower that enters the field with Ward gains +1/+2. So in the late game, you just have massive Ward, right? And if your opponent doesn't have a good way to like deal damage through the wards, they have to go through the wards, right? In which case, sometimes they can't do that, so they just die and you overwhelm them. And you know, despite the fact that I said earlier that, you know, Wilbur is a card where they can kind of play around it if they like use Odin or something like that. But of course, on turn 7, they just slam Ether, and then Ether basically summon 3 other followers, and they'll have Ward, right? And then you have a massive board, they all gain the Wilbur crest effect, and then your opponent has to deal with that. But with your super evolve, they also gain extra stats and aura. So some decks have a really hard time beating this, and some decks can clear it almost effortlessly. Like for example, Orcus clears for free, right? But there are other decks which don't have Orcus and therefore have a pretty tough time dealing with this. So depending on the matchup, this can just automatically win you a game. But yeah, I mean, Warnhaven, this particular build also uses the Storm package with amulets, so a bit of a mix, but the way it is like, you know, you want to like, I mean, for example, this is like one of the best 2-drop like amulets in the game, right? You get a 4/4 and you can like proc it whenever you want. You know, you can either wait for it to expire or you can just use it the turn after and drop a 4/4 rush. So like you can control the board early, and then also when you find time, you can drop Avian Statue. And of course, this card, you know, it's just a 4/4 Storm if you time it properly with the other cards, especially with something like Wilbert, right? Like, you know, they have to deal with Wilbert, but they also have to deal with the Storm that's behind Wilbert as well. So like basically you can do some shenanigans where you time your amulets to come out at the same time, therefore getting rid of the biggest weakness of Wilbert. So I think that's pretty cool. And of course, this deck also has access to Unholy Vessel, which is one of the best board clears in the game. So overall, there's a lot going for this deck. I think it does seem pretty strong, but I know some decks can easily kind of circumvent it. Puppets seem like one of them. So your mileage will vary depending on like the specific decks that you face, but overall, it does seem like a pretty well put together deck, and I think it's strong. Next up, we have Midrange Sword. So Sword is always strong at the start of the expansion because a lot of decks are not optimized yet, right? And when they're not optimized, it means that when you play a deck like Sword, which relies on your opponent not being able to answer your board, right? If they're unoptimized, then of course you're just going to run them over. Okay, so they do run 3 copies of the new legendary. So this one is when you're at Rally 20, you super evolve for free. And then you get all the various effects associated with that, right? So this card's very strong. You can obviously evolve it on turn 6 as well with just a normal Evo. So it's quite flexible. They also run 2 copies of Urius. So Urius is the new kind of board freeze tool that Sword has access to. So this one's really annoying for a lot of decks to deal with. There's not really that much counterplay if they manage to play this against you and you're really like near an empty board, but the main counterplay is like if you already have a board, it's quite hard for them to play this. But overall, this burns you, burns the enemy, heals you, locks their board, and then they have to clear this, but it's not that easy because this actually freezes the card that comes out. So yeah, Urius is definitely a fairly strong card as well. I would say it's almost like a tech card. And then on top of that, it's running like the standard kind of, it's running the standard package, right? Like the cards that you saw last expansion. But we do see 3 copies of Grimnir, so I mean this deck is pretty expensive, not gonna lie. But yeah, the crest. So when it comes into play, you gain the crest, and if you have super evolved ally follow on the field, you deal 2 damage at the end of turn to all enemy followers. And of course, you have free super evo with Gildaria, right? So Grimnir gets more value than usual in this deck. And then also it's running 3 copies of Prim. I really don't think this card is good, but I mean, I think it's too negative tempo for Sword, but obviously this guy seems to have made it work, so I mean, I won't criticize, but overall, you know, it has a similar game plan to last format, to be honest. Just that it's got a few buffs with like the new cards. Interesting to see they're not running the new 3-cost gold. I think that makes sense. There's too many good 3-costs, and I think I had that concern like even before as well. But yeah, it just runs the same. It's going to punish the early meta. I think likely that as decks get refined, mid-range Sword will drop down, but you want to climb now, then this is a really good deck to play. Okay, next up we have Midrange Abyss. So this one, they did benefit from Ginsetsu and Yuzuki. So see in your high end, you're basically forcing your opponent out of resources, and when you drop this, they have nothing left to answer this, and you just win the game instead. But apart from that, it's running like all the standard tools. This particular deck, I did underestimate this card because I misread it, but this card's actually quite strong. So 2/4 stats with Rush is not bad at all. I mean, there's not many cards in the early game that can really deal with this, especially if you're going first, right? If you're going first and you go 2/2 and then they drop 2/2 and then you drop this and you trade in, it's already quite strong. But the effect that I overlooked was like the Super Evo one. I thought it only gave it to itself. I didn't realize it gave it to the Super Evo follower as well. So this card, like you can play this and you can play the Mummy, for instance, and you can Super Evo the Mummy, trade into go into face, and then you can trade on their board using Fuella. So that's like a combo that will come up every once in a while. But also like this Karen card is like kind of busted. Like for example, you gain a huge board that's not that easy for people to clear, and then when you super evolve it as well, you gain an effect that lets you reanimate 3 at the start of your turn, and then that's often, in fact, I think it's always Viola. And because Viola has Rush, it's not like a disadvantage. She can attack on the turn she's played. or reanimated, so to speak, right? So this synergy is very strong, and so yeah, overall, I think like this card, huge buff to Abyss as well. And then on top of that, they're just running like sticky cards. Like this card's really sticky and hard to clear. So I mean, the game plan is very much a mid-range deck, I think. So although it does run 2 copies of Kinsetsu to seal the deal, but I think for the most part, you're trying to win through board. And if your opponent can't answer your board for any single turn, they will just die to Cerberus. So that's mid-range Abyss. Next up, we have Face Dragon. So it's from Taroko. He's the rank 1 player, I think, from last set. So he has updated his Face Dragon list, so I definitely recommend giving that a try if you enjoy going aggro to face. So of course, it runs 2 copies of Pine Blade. This one just gives you a perma buff like every single turn that you have the play points available for it. And then also it's running 3 copies of Phylene, not surprising, one of the best 2-drops within Dragon, even for an aggressive deck. And then let's see what else he runs. New 3 copies of Odin. Okay, everyone saw this coming, right? I mean, turn 7, banish something, swing face. Like everyone saw this coming. So no surprise that he's definitely gone for this extra storm option, but deck plays are relatively the same, I would say. Like there's not that many new additions, but unfortunately it's 6 legendaries. So it went from being one of the cheapest decks to being quite expensive. But I don't think you need to run Phylene. I think this is replaceable, and I think Odin, yeah, it's better than Warrior of the Deep for sure. But if you can't afford it, you just run 3 Warrior of the Deep and 1 Odin or something like that. Okay, mid-range Abyss. So I think this is actually more of an aggro build. Oh no, it's mid-range. It looks like mid-range to me. But yeah, same thing as before. I mean, just a different build, to be honest. Again, like this Karen card, it like actually enables the entire strategy. It's so hard to clear, and yeah, you're forced to clear like almost every single turn as well. It's kind of crazy. Wardhaven again, so same thing as before, just a slightly different build. We won't go through this. Ramp Dragon, so this is surprisingly stronger than people thought. I personally was defending this deck, right? I thought like there was an angle if the meta was slow enough, and I guess I was right. Okay, so this deck basically focuses on Fenny. So Fenny, keep in mind this actually stacks, by the way. Like I played against a guy and he dropped 3 Fenny on me, and his Olivia cost 1 play point, and you know how like Olivia refunds 2 play points when it's played? So his Olivia was effectively -1 play point to play, which is crazy. I'm sure he got lucky because like I think he played Fenny on the first turn. He played 2 4-cost Fenny the turn after, so I'm pretty sure he got lucky. But anyway, regardless, this card halves the cost of everything in deck, and then this deck runs so much draw power like after this card is played. So for example, if you play this, you draw 2 cards, and then most of your cards, or all of your cards will be under 5 play points, right? And then you also run like other cycle as well. Let me double check. Okay, this particular build doesn't, but I've seen people run like Ivory Dragon to like get the cycle. I've seen people run like the 2/2 that cycles as well to draw a card. So definitely there are like other cycle cards, but Olivia is really insane. If you top deck this after it's halved, basically, I think it costs, what was it, like 4 play points, and then you refund 2, so it's effectively costs 2 play points to play, and then you draw 2 more cards from your deck, which are also halved. So if you get like if you play Fenny and then you like snowball into this, you pretty much GG. Like if you like get the halved cost one, it's pretty much GG. So this deck is really snowbally, and if your opponent can't really kill you like before Fenny like resolves and you get like a few turns with a half effect, you would just die. And so the reason why this deck actually operates is because they got some really good cards. Like the Orca package is very good in ramp, so I think I called it as well. So unironically called it. So call it Mega Orca, you get a 2/2 rush, so that's good in the early game, it's good in the late game. After Fenny is active, it costs it gets it from the deck actually, it doesn't generate one. So it costs 1 play point, and it's a 2/2 rush, and then it gets it from the deck and you can do it again. So like that loop is actually not bad as well. And then you also get Phylene, of course, one of the best 2-drops in the game. Can full clear the enemy board if necessary, or it can freeze the enemy hand. So yeah, this card of course is great. And then also we're running 2 copies of this guy, Seasoned Merman. So again, I think when I did my card review of this like set, I was like, wait, isn't this crazy? Because when you evolve this, it's like 11/11 in stats or something like that. So for 5 play points, right? So realistically, almost nothing on turn 5 will survive this, and then that gives you like a opportunity, right, to build a board that your opponent has to deal with, which relieves the pressure on you and lets you ramp and like get to Fenny. 3 copies of Draconic Strike. So this card performed better than I thought when I played it. So it's not that hard. do an entire board with this. A lot of times, like some decks literally have no way to deal with that. Like, for example, Forest, if they don't have Glade, like almost everything's dying to this. And then you just reduce the cost of like Fenny or like, or any of your big dudes, right? I mean, you don't feel bad playing like the reduce effect on anything really. So yeah, this card is quite strong. And then Neptune, so one of the best new gold cards as well. So this is like exactly what Dragon needed. Like it's like a big follower that controls the board, heals you, force your opponent to respond to it, lets you clear the enemy board. It does everything pretty much, right? So this card really feels good to play. Yeah, when I saw this, I thought, okay, maybe Ramp Dragon is real because like this card is so strong. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the new cards. And then obviously you just finish the game with Genesis Dragon. It costs 5 play points after Fenny, so it's not that hard to kill them with it. This deck is surprisingly good. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see it a bit more on the ladder after seeing this 15-win streak come out. And then finally, we just got another mid-range sword deck. So this is pretty much like the high win streak decks on day one. I think there's a few more. We'll continue updating the site as the day goes on. I think I saw Forest one, but we just haven't uploaded it yet. Tier list for the moment. So this is subject to change. It's literally day one. But I think at the moment, the best decks, Artifact, Puppet, Midrange, Spellboost, Rune. These ones seem like the strongest to me. Like, they got rid of a lot of their weaknesses, or they currently capitalize on the meta right now as undeveloped. I think I might have to move Ramp Dragon up. I did this yesterday before it got popularized, so this might have to go to tier 2 maybe. I figured Face Dragon was still good with how many buffs it got. Mid-range Abyss definitely seems to be picking up a lot of steam on ladder, so not surprising. Pixie Forest, so I think the Roach build is still good, actually. Like, its biggest weaknesses, to be honest, like, for example, Sword, like, there's not that much Sword on the ladder, right? So it is actually still good against a lot of the decks within the meta. And the Ward Haven has been performing as well, so it's still tier 2. But I do think this tier list will change over time. And the best way to check that is by going on the website. It'll be in the link below. And you can check out the tier list and the win streak decks and say update. So I hope you guys enjoyed this brief summary of the day 1 meta. And if you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time.